everyone. This is the Doomtombpodcast, the podcast for all things stoner, doom, and sludge. My name is Chris. I am your host, and we are going to continue with part 2 with Snow Burial. We get into it with the album release, Ostrava, and also a lengthy discussion about pinball. Yeah, you'll hear it. You'll hear the buzzwords of everything that goes on with pinball, arcade games, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get into it right now. This is part 2 with the guys in Snow. All right. Let's start out. I'll start out with Tyranny because that's the first track, and then we'll go into Sever the Bloodline. I'm not asking for like a soliloquy, but more like what can you tell me about Tyranny?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's about tyranny, right? And in our world now, and what we see now is a gross inequality, and
right.
We like. I write most of the lyrics. Writing stuff to be cathartic and get emotions out and play heavy music and play things that I'm passionate to sing about as well, right? Because if I'm going to growl and shout, I can't do it sort of half-heartedly.
Right.
So I write stuff that, hits me and what sort of the song evokes in my head. And, tyranny is about fighting tyrants and what sort of hypocrisy and bullshit that we see out there.
And there's a lot of it.
And yeah, but it's also like, I cut my teeth on the Melvins, so I'm used to obtuse and abstract lyrics.
Sure.
So I'm not quite as, I grew up listening to Bad Religion too, but I'm not writing Bad Religion lyrics.
I understand what you're saying. I hear you.
Yeah.
So let's go into the track Sever the Bloodline. Mm-hmm. Are we talking lizard people? Are we talking Illuminati? Are we talking Rothschilds? What are we talking here, dude?
No, so conspiracies are way too... People aren't that good at doing things, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. It seems like most of conspiracy theories rely on people being really excellent at keeping secrets from each other and working together, and we're not. I think it's sort of often much more simple and accidental sociopathy.
That's a great point. Yeah, sometimes, and look, I'll be honest with you, I want to believe some stuff. I really do. I really do.
Yeah, it's way more interesting than what really happens.
Exactly. But is it? I don't know. Are there lizard people? I have no idea.
I sure hope so. That'd be way more interesting.
Personally, I would love to see somebody shapeshift in front of my face. I would love it. But whatever. Great. So
miracles would be dope.
Yeah,
right.
There you go. Yeah. So what can you tell me about Sever the Bloodline?
So yeah, I mean the imagery is all very like French Revolution, right? Decapitate the let them eat cake, right? Like that kind of bullshit.
Right.
And it was a tough song, and it felt like it needed tough lyrics. So, lines that kind of came, that line, Sever the Bloodline, was the first line that came to me while we were jamming, and I'm sort of improvising vocals on it and sort of inspired from that. And to go way deep on Nerd World, right. That is the name of that's a Magic card.
Magic the Gathering?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right.
Competitive Magic player over here. He used to be
fucking travel and
used to bring it.
Yeah.
Look, there is no shortage of nerddom on this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Or on the podcast in general. There are several. I can't believe how many people have played D&D and talk about it and with passion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just shocked. So here's the thing. Sever the Bloodline was the track that I could hear on Bandcamp currently off the new release, Ostrava. And I got to tell you, man, that the bass, I was hearing a lot of the bass line that I felt like it flowed the same way as Victory and Ruin. I heard a lot of bass heavy stuff on Victory and Ruin.
Yeah.
And I felt like I hear that on Sever the Bloodline too. If you could, before we go further, what are your major differences between Victory and Ruin and Ostrava?
Well, I think, like, Victory, we were still figuring a lot of things out of how we wanted to write songs.
Right.
And I think Ostrava, we kind of found our home more with the songwriting, and, you know, it takes a while, right? You all have a bunch of different influences as musicians, and you bring them in, and you're sort of trying different hats on. Okay. And there's different modes that you can get into that work, and you figure out what sort of makes a more cohesive record, right? So we wrote more songs for Ostrava than are on the record, so we have the option to, like, kick songs out, right? And say, like, nope, you don't fit. Like, you're a cool song, but doesn't quite fit the whole picture. And
it kind of comes with maturity as well.
Yeah, and so I think, like, Victory had less of that, right? And has a little more free form, a little more free jazz.
You know, good point. I felt a lot of that. There was a song in Victory and Ruin. It was your instrumental. Zombie Arthropod Overlords? Is that?
Arthropod Overlords.
Yeah.
You know, I and pardon me, I apologize if I'm speaking out of tune, but I felt like I was hearing something like a more metal version, a heavier version of Pat Metheny. Are you familiar?
Okay.
Are you familiar with him?
No, I don't know Pat Metheny that well, no. But I accept your interpretation.
Fantastic jazz musician, just brilliant. You know, I'd suggest it, listening to it and seeing what you feel of it. But I really felt that in an instrumental because, you know, most of Metheny's work was instrumental. But either way, I apologize. Let me move forward here. The Afterneath. What can you tell me about that track?
So it's a pretty proggy sort of song structure.
Sure.
It actually probably shares some elements with Zombie Arthropod Overlords, but sort of focused again more at the song style of something like Sever the Bloodline, right? Where it's a little more cohesive. There's actually vocals on that one. But yeah, so the one of the driving ethoses of the record was kind of foot up on the monitor metal, right? Like,
there you go.
Right, we're having fun, man. I mean, it's fun to play. Like, yeah, it's dark, it's heavy, there's serious lyrics, but it's also really fun to play. So, you know, I don't know. Again, with age and maturity, I don't have any guilty pleasures anymore. Like, I don't buy into that. You just enjoy it. Just own it.
Again, I it's like kindred spirits, man. I when I first started the podcast, I would ask, like, what's a guilty pleasure song, and I realized, like, who gives a shit? It's you like what you like. You know, fuck you. If you don't like it, that's fine. I'm gonna do me over here. You go do you over there. You like what you like. I like what I like. It's no big thing, man.
Well, what's also funny, I think, about being in a heavier band is that when you write a riff that is like, 10% rock and roll, you feel like you're writing a pop song.
Right.
When 98% of the world, if they had heard it, went, oh my God, what is this noise? Right? This like howling, screaming, and like thunderous drums. Well, you feel like, well, I'm basically just writing a pop song. Like the world's like, oh God, what is this?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
And it's so funny being internal about like how minutia being in metal is, right?
Yeah.
It's like, are we doom? Are we thrash? Are we like one of my coworkers had no idea of the divisions of metal, and he thought I was doing a bit when I was like, yeah, they're like more doom, they're more thrash, they're more like they're more speed metal, they're more
power,
like,
they're more death, they're more tech death,
like
they're more
tech death. Yes.
I was like, and he's like, you're kidding me. These are made up words. And I was like, and bands live and die, and it's really hard actually to play. Like, because you could play in front of a room full of metalheads, and they're like,
nope,
not my cup of tea.
Yeah, we played. Do you know the band Black Fast?
I don't. Tell me.
So they're from St. Louis. They're it's black metal, and it is just straight up like, and they're fucking great and super fun showmen. And they drew a huge crowd, and we played with them. And there's a band called The Gorge in St. Louis, who are fucking super tight prog metal. And we go in with our kind of posty, kind of doomy stuff, and like it was just a full stare down for like 35, 40 minutes. They had none of it, and it's like I'm sorry, we're not your very specific brand of
It's
metal.
like trying to sell pizza in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, good callback.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, it's
comedy.
There's a spot for everybody. There's a lane for everybody.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, I saw last night. I was at a show, and the first band was probably hardcore punk. The second band was sludge. The third band was deathcore. The fourth band, I can't even put them in a genre. I would guess peace punk. Is that even a term? I don't even know. And it all gelled. It's like there was a huge crowd, and everybody got along. And sometimes, you know, I've seen the shows where people turn their back on bands, and fuck you. Seriously, I was like, can you get your ass up there? Can you do this? No. So shut your mouth and just enjoy it, you know? Enjoy it for what it is, man, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's a funny thing. Like, I grew up in, like, a smaller scene, and we didn't have any of the great venues that we talked about here. In fact, most of the venues that I grew up playing in and watching shows in were basements, were garages, were, you know, like the back room of a record store.
Right.
And when you didn't get a ton of bands coming through, like my town, we loved whatever your genre was if you crushed it. It didn't matter if you were like a speed metal band or a rockabilly band. If you were on and you killed it, like our town would love you. And that was like, and it was really great about like sharing genres to grow up that way, because everybody loved everything and you got to be a fan of all kinds of different genres because we didn't have enough bands to be specific.
Exactly. You know, there's like that band that I don't know if I said it on mic or off mic, this band Ugly, they're going to be playing, and it's the second time they played there, at a yoga studio. Basically.
Nice.
Yeah, and it works. They're super generous with their space, and they're going to be bringing some heavy material, and it's, you know, everybody just gets along, and that's the best part of it. Just let's, you know, and I don't know, it's not really political or anything, but like let's just get along. Let's just enjoy music for what it is, and you know, and let's move forward, man.
I'm into that.
Let's see. So we're on the fourth track, and I apologize. My eyes are shit, and I said this off mic. What's the name of the track?
So, yeah, it's called Trinet, and it's really sort of an introduction to Ostrava, right? So Trinet and Ostrava go together. They're both towns in the Czech Republic, and that's where our van broke down.
Right.
And we played with a Latvian hardcore band that was hilarious.
What was their name?
Fuck, I don't remember.
It was a traumatic time, and memories are spotty at this. Like, there was a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
That's funny.
But yeah, essentially, like, those are just that's like a callback to the era of like when you had a CD player and you were like, I don't want to listen. Like, it would be like if one got put out now, you could just fast forward to like Darkness Imprisoning Me.
Yeah, the double bass part. Yeah,
you could just break the track, but they're essentially one track. On the record, it'll feel like one track.
All right, so we go into Ostrava. What can you tell me?
So yeah, I mean the theme of the song is what it felt like, having everything kind of blow up in your face, and not just being like a kid who's 20 and out on the road and figuring life out. It's like, no, I have kids at home. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
I got to get home, right? Like, that kind of feeling of that, because it is like playing this music, all these bands that tour and do everything. Like, we all have jobs. Like, we all do things outside of just playing music.
Exactly.
Until you get to like the like Mastodon level.
Yeah, there's really not a ton of middle class, of being in a band anymore, right? It's you're either gigantic or you're nothing. Like, it's very difficult to like carve out a life where you could make a living playing rock and roll now. Like, I think that's like a pretty
right. So when it goes wrong, you're like, man, I'm really I'm costing a ton of stuff and it's going wrong. Like, it's a pretty rock bottom feeling,
It's tough.
So you're like, I've taken time off work. Like, I'm not at home with my family. Like, I'm doing all this stuff and it's not like, I'm not even playing the shows because shit broke. Like, that's, sort of that bottom. Right. And what does that, feel like?
But there's a
we missed
beauty
half
in
the
that.
tour.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It ended up costing us about half the tour that we were on. We didn't play half the shows that we were scheduled to play.
You know what? There was an episode a while ago. There was this band Beira that I was at the venue. I did an interview with the venue, and this guy came in, John Quinn, who was in the band Mosara, and he described this it was about a 10-minute soliloquy. He was very drunk. And it was just, you sweat this, you bleed this, and it's so DIY, and I'm so honored, to have a band like you guys, and or to even have any band in the DIY genre that is just, they're scraping. They're getting by. They're doing what they can. They're selling their merch. They're moving on to the next space. I honor you guys. I really do. And I know we're talking about the album, but I am so just honored to deal with people that are working it. They're doing what they can. And it sounds silly. It's like an old Dukes of Hazzard thing. They're making their way the only way they know how, doing something.
Well, we're all done with that now that we signed with Prosthetic. We're all like, it's like smooth sailing from here.
Yeah.
It's
buses and champagne.
Yeah.
No.
But
nice.
We are massively grateful for the label, and we have all felt having they have been tremendous for us. They've had our back. They've like helped us in an unnameable amount of ways to help get this band going.
Really?
And honestly, like they've been tremendous to work with, and having our label mates also, like it gives us like a family and a community within that DIY like culture that is just like a little help that helps you move on to the next place. And so we are eternally grateful for them and all of the help that they have put into making this record something that you can get, and it's something that looks as beautiful as it does, and will hopefully actually be places except our practice space. I mean, like, which is where most of Victory and Ruin resides.
There you go.
We have like all of the copies, but
right.
I mean, and I think that's the thing, is that they were so great because they recognized how hard Ben works for this band, and like that's what they wanted in us, right? Was a band that like is willing to like get out there and hustle and do all this stuff. And so we don't think of it as we're done. We think of it as like, now we have help. We have
now
someone,
the work begins.
We have someone in our corner. We're not rounding third. We just hit the ball, and we've got help now, and that's been
awesome.
like tremendous.
Shout out to Prosthetic Records, and anybody could pause this right now, go download Victory and Ruin, give these guys some scratch, and until that time, we're going to go to Gaping Wounds. What can you tell me?
So that's on. So right after we got back from tour, where everything went wrong, my dad passed away. So it's pretty much, 2018 was a rough year. I'm laughing because you can't, but not. That song's basically just about that feeling of loss and what, all of those existential realizations. I'm fucking lucky. My dad was an awesome dad, and I still love him. I totally lucked out, right? You don't get to choose who your parents are.
No, you don't.
And if you're lucky enough to have good ones, that is the ultimate cosmic lottery.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to. My dad's a hell of a guy too, and so I wouldn't play music without him. And he carved out space in the garage. He got me my first guitar. He made us beef jerky and things there's just there's those things that a parent can do.
He repaired all the amps of your friends. He was the amp repairman for the entire town. If your amp went down, my dad kept it running. And we owe so much to our parents for these things, because I wouldn't be able to do this if he didn't trust me to be go follow the thing that you care about, learn how to make money later. Because I'm on the opposite of the having home and career and thing. I'm like, well, this is the life that I want to lead, and I have forsaken just about everything else to do this, and that but the effect is the same. When it goes terribly, you're like, well, now I have no fallback. No, I have nothing.
Right, and
that's nice.
And so, I think we all owe a huge debt to our parents who supported us to get along, where we are.
Before you continue, can you both give a shout out to your fathers?
Oh yeah, Paul, hell of a guy.
Byron, the best.
Rest in power, brothers.
Hell yeah.
Burn Down the Crown. What can you tell me?
So there was a moment. So Victory in the Ruin has a big theme about sort of what happens after the apocalypse, right? Or kind of that idea and what gets us there, right? So this, when I talk about greed or things like that, Victory in the Ruin is about I won, but everything else around me is ruined. But it doesn't matter because I'm rich, right? Like that. Right. Fuck the world, I've got my money, that kind of vibe. And there was a moment where we're going to make this next record kind of the post-apocalypse. So, what, right? Because, there's these themes within Burn Down the Crown of, what would come next, right? So because life finds a way, right? The dinosaurs all got wiped out by something. Right. And now there's humans are running around. But the dinosaurs were kings for millions upon millions of years, way longer than humans ever were.
Yep.
And, realizing as an adult that, actually the dinosaurs are still around. They're just birds. And now humans run shit. Well, something can replace us pretty easily. Right? So that working on that vibe of, something's new coming from the wastes of our failures, right? Maybe humans are still around, but something will replace us.
Happens all the time, man. It's the circle of life, as the Lion King said.
Young lions are coming.
Right?
What can you tell me about The Lost?
The Lost is again reference kind of to death and the sort of experiences with what it's like losing people and what those, having to explain to my 4-year-old that his granddad isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
It's that one of the worst and hardest things is explaining to your child that, one, their favorite person isn't around anymore, and two, also they're going to die.
It's a discussion about mortality, really.
Yeah. But you know what? That's part of life. But that's also, it's you can be consumed by it and navel gaze and, write every song and, film about it, or you can try and make something happy too. It's both sides.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's really great about this record for us is that it's very immediate, right? Everything that Ben is talking about is like things that happen in our lives, and it's a response to the world that we live in, right? So it is our response to 2018. It is our response to that time, both like emotionally, personally, politically. It is like a time capsule of our experience in that way. And so we're excited to like have that and mark that in time and then work on what the next series of things are for us. And that's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I ran out of stuff.
That's the most amazing thing is like you have a stamp. Here it is. Yeah. This is 2018. This is what you were dealing with. Yep. And that's, I mean, I think that's just incredible, man. So with the, and I apologize, if this gets personal, you just let me know. If with the passing of your dad, how much of the material was, inspired by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Gaping Wounds was fully on like this is the riff that comes out when I feel sad like about it. Like this is very viscerally like what escapes my body through guitar. And so there's moments like that where it's like it turns into something that I can capture and be a song. Sometimes it's it's pure nonsense in terms of actual like making a song, but it's something that's emotional, and I mean that's art, right? You're trying to capture part of the human experience. And then it doesn't. It's not every song, right? Like not every song is about that on the record, but it's it was a huge. It's the worst thing that can happen besides myself passing away, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I talked to a band a while ago. Oh my gosh, I can't even, maybe over a year ago. And he told me that the entire album was basically dedicated to his dad. And it's odd because it was such a heavy album, so heavy doom. And you know what? I don't personally have that, as much of a connection. And I'm so honored to talk to somebody that does have that family unit. And that is awesome to hear, guys. I really appreciate you sharing this with me. More than you even know. You know what? Even in turn of talking, I forgot where are we up to right now? Are we up to the Lost?
The penultimate.
Penultimate, yeah. The Lost is the next last song.
Yeah. So we're up to the Lost.
No, we just did Lost.
We just did the Lost. So yeah, the last song.
So let's
Unforgiven.
The Unforgiven. What can you tell me about it?
That was a little more abstract.
I'm interested. I feel like I have not gotten Ben to I'm leaning in for this because I'm like, I have my theories about what it's about. So I'm very interested to let him talk about it.
Right. I mean, I think part of it is about trauma and how it scars multiple generations and what happens, right? So do you just repeat the past? And that happens, right? People
absolutely.
Like, some dad beats their kid, and then that kid grows up, has their own kids, and beats their kids. Like that happens all the time, right? That's part of the human world. Like, or does that person rise above that and make a change? And are they, or do they repeat everything, or do they forget it, or how do they move on, right? And how does someone move past that? So it's the exploring some of that, and myself is like I've gone through trauma myself. Thankfully, my dad did not beat me. My dad was awesome, but like does, that sort of self-reflective, like, how can I deal with it and move past it? And is it, what is that where some people repeat and some people move on, right?
Yeah, that is the process. And you know what? That is such an interesting list, in terms of songs and in terms of what you were feeling through all of it. You know what, guys? I really appreciate you taking the time to go track by track and you really detailed each song. And if people don't get out there and pick this up, stop it. Just go to Bandcamp right now, pick up. And by the way, I'm a sucker for vinyl lately. I've been picking up vinyl left and right.
Oh yeah.
And this vinyl is so gorgeous. And brothers, thank you so much for your time. I just got a few more quick questions for you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, man.
Let's do it.
Thank you. Yeah. So you're going to Chicago.
I'm busting out the Buffalo Trace now.
We're through the hard part now. We're gonna treat ourselves. So this is where it gets loose at the end of the.
This is just smooth sailing. All right. So you're going to Chicago. You're going to Doomed and Stone. Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give me a place that people need to go to see while they're in Chicago.
Well, you're talking to the 2/3 of bands who are way deep into pinball. So
right.
Logan Arcade or Logan Hardware.
Yeah.
Best pinball bar.
Period.
Now, do they have arcade games or no?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
They do. They have a lot of arcade games, and they're meticulously maintained. They're the sweetest people, great drinks.
Yeah.
Great events. Like every Christmas, speaking of Cool Keith, Cool Keith comes and does a show on Christmas there for some reason.
Nice.
I don't
let me set the stage for you for this.
Yeah.
There is, in the front window, there are animatronic robot dogs called the Biscuits that play Misfit songs that are timed and programmed to a light show, but they've been re-recorded. So the Danzig's vocals have been re-recorded with dog lyrics.
Oh my
so
God.
It's like when they sing like "I want your skulls," it's like "I want your bones," and I'll like.
This is brilliant.
It's the best, right?
Yeah.
They really Zespy, the owner, really goes deep on this stuff. There's like a Japanese table flipping game that just is like you competitively in a video game flipping a table, and it's like the most alarming game on the planet because you're just behind you.
There's
you
a
hear
practical table,
poof, and it's a virtual table that you flip when it's time, and it's like this place is the best with booze, and you will find me and members of my pinball team there often, and it's a blast.
There's a pinball team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extra ballsy.
Wow.
That's our pinball team. Season's starting up soon. We'll be facing off against the Pinsane Clown Posse.
Oh my
and
God.
Tilt Chamberlain and
Yeah, this motherfucker just went.
Holy shit.
Yeah, Nick travels, we're like, hey, can we play this show this weekend? He's like, no, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh for a pinball tournament.
Yeah. It's what you do when you don't have children.
Okay. So
you gotta make your legacy elsewhere.
I was playing ACDC pinball.
Fuck yeah.
Last night.
Stuff designed by Steve Ritchie.
Holy shit, you go deep, son. Wow. All right, so here's the thing. This is what bothers me. It's like I enjoy playing it. I don't like when that ball goes right through both of the flippers.
Flippers straight down the middle.
Oh, that is so frustrating, man. There are few things less frustrating than that. Like as a pinball,
it's always your fault. That's the first lesson.
How dare you, sir?
You can always fix it.
All right.
Because every time I think you can't, literally the best player in the world lives in Chicago now. He works for Stern Pinball, which is based out of Chicago. Right. Chicago's like deep in the soul of pinball.
Yep.
Which is incredible. And so he moved here. He literally just won that tournament in Pittsburgh back-to-back years. First person in history to ever do it. He has designed the new Maiden game. And when you watch him play, just take 10 minutes, Google Keith Elwin playing anything, and you will have your mind blown that such a thing is possible to do with 2 buttons. And it's when you watch the best in the world play, you realize most of the time it is savable. There are some that are beyond repair, and all pinball games end just like it's a microcosm of life, but it can be played amazingly well with great care and intention, and it is the most frustrating thing in the whole world, though.
So as a pinball connoisseur, because there's a place I go to a lot, Yucca Tap Room. It's in Tempe, Arizona. They have an arcade, and they got a lot of pinball machines. So help me out for a second here. So when the ball comes down, do I wait for the tip to hit it, or should I hit before the tip? Okay,
so there are 2 things. One, you got to be aware of if you're trying to save a drain that's 6 inches from your flippers, it's too late. You got to start your micro nudges. You got to start either like giving a small shake on the front of the machine or on the sides when it's up top on the machine before it starts. Like when you start seeing it like start to come, it's got to be 2 feet from your flippers when you start the micro nudges. But the best way to save it straight down the middle is going to be what's called a slap save. A slap save is because you have the ability to nudge the machine before you tilt it, you basically take an open hand, you pick a side, and you smack the side of the cabinet and the button at the same time to flip the flipper up and shake the cabinet about a fraction of an inch, a quarter of an inch, to try and poke the ball out of the air as it's coming down past your flippers, and that will save it, I would say, about half the time. Once you master that move, your center drains will be much more friendly.
Did you just say center drains?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole lingo.
I feel like I'm watching the King of Kong right now.
Yeah.
And
it's not unlike that. It's equally sad.
There's a kill screen coming up. If anybody's interested, there's a kill screen. If anyone wants to see it, it's the best. Look, I love trade jargon. I think it's interesting to me for some reason. And for you to blow off those terms like they're nothing, I love that. I think that's hysterical.
I mean, it's the same gene that people apply to tube amps, and guitars, sports, and pickups, and sports.
Look, the internet has made it so you can get nerdy about anything. Like, I can make anything ridiculous. Like,
but I love that you're choosing pinball. That's awesome.
Yeah, I grew up with it. My pops taught me how to play, and he taught me how to do a live catch, and that's when you cradle a ball right as it's coming at your flipper, and it stops its momentum, and I was hooked. I was like,
one of the best feelings ever is catching a ball. So like you hit the flipper so that its momentum equals the momentum of the ball coming down, and you just gently catch it as it's coming down. It's like swishing a 3-pointer. Like you're just like, I'm God.
You feel like a Jedi. Yeah, you're just like, I have stopped gravity, and it's the best. We love it. And when Snow Burial, we just played a show on tour where we met some guys at a brewery who were watching us like play pinball, and they're like, "Yeah, we should come see your show." And then they did. They actually came across town to our show,
right?
And we played up on this stage where there was pinball, and we let them play pinball behind us on stage because we were like, well, it would be wrong for us to not let you play pinball during our set, so get up there. And we invited anybody who wanted to play during our set, and it was my dream. I wish I could have been on the other side of the drums that night.
Okay, so if there's any chance that you come to Arizona, there's a place where we got some good pinball, and I'm not going to play, but I just want to see. I want to see the magic.
It's way more fun when you play. It's
embarrassing.
He'll teach you. He will teach. Nick is a very loving instructor.
It's just, I just want everyone to love it, because there was a time in the early 2000s where it died, and it like felt like it was never coming back, and it is like in a total resurgence. And if you have like a local pinball club, like go compete, go join a team. It's the most fun. Behind being in a band and buying records and collecting all the things, it's like a close second.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Go check out some pinball. I just don't know what to say. I'm terrible at it, but I need the band Snow Burial to come out to Arizona so I can learn the finer arts and hear the. Wait, what's the term when the ball goes through?
Replay knock. Oh,
center drain.
The center drain?
Avoid the center drain.
I fucking love it. Oh, God, that is the best. This, by the way, I don't know how when this will come out. It'll be 70-something episodes. This is a first. I haven't exactly gone over the finer points of pinball. But thank you.
Anytime.
Anytime. What was the last great movie you saw?
The last great movie I saw was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Dope.
That movie fucking slayed on so many levels. My 4-year-old loves it. I love it as an adult. It's fucking great.
And sir?
I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at the Music Box in 70mm film. It's one of 5 theaters in America that is playing it on film. And I saw it with some friends there, and
that's really great.
I love Tarantino. He like what you were talking about earlier with Tool. He has a lifetime pass for me. If he puts out a new thing, I will see his movie. Like he has earned enough of my trust. I've seen, like, I saw Hateful Eight when it was at the Music Box in 70mm on film, and like. I didn't get a chance to say this, but I love that you're going to buy the new Tool record, Sight Unseen.
Yeah.
Because that's what we as bands hope for, that you develop that kind of trust with your audience. It's like eating at a great restaurant where they're like, look, we're going to try this new menu. And when you're like, if you've trusted us before, trust that we'll take you to someplace interesting and just go with us. Don't judge it. Don't try and make it what you want it to be. Just trust us, and we'll try to make it interesting for you. And so I love that you bought it without listening to it.
I mean,
that's awesome.
Thank you. And don't you know that's what we used to do? I mean, I'm probably older than both of you guys, and I used to just buy the album or CD or whatever because I trusted the band, and I said, you're either going to do good or you're going to do bad. Either way, I want this. Which is why we should pick up Ostrava, because you want to get a taste of this band, check out Victory and Ruin, but, with the new material, with Sever the Bloodline that I've heard, you'll want to pick up Ostrava. Plus, they got the beautiful purple vinyl cover, or the vinyl pressing. It is absolutely fantastic looking. Worst mishap on tour or on stage? What do you got?
Ostrava, the whole experience.
Yeah. So the van blowing up in the Czech Republic, us getting stranded. We covered that. We killed that one to death. So years ago, it was before Nick joined the band. We were on tour with our friends in the Gorge, who are a prog metal band in St. Louis. They rule. They fucking slay. Check them out. Their original bass player is now the bass player in Baroness.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And, I mean, they're all, like, jazz dudes. Like, their guitar player is just going back. Like, he already has, like, a music degree. He's going back for his master's now.
Right.
So these guys, like, can rip off, like, oh, we're just going to do jazz standards for an hour if we wanted to. Or we're going to cover Bleed. Right? Like, they can do it all. Yeah, they're savage. So we're on tour. We're playing some awesome shows. We roll into Nashville, and there was like this epic thunderstorm coming in. We're like, fuck, this sucks. Like, all right, well, we dodged it. Like, we're loaded in. We're okay. Like, we're going to go get dinner. While we're getting dinner, like, everyone's phone blows up with the, like, emergency flash flood warning. I'm like, oh no. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
we get back to the venue, and like the first band, there was this back room, like the venue's a bar, there's a stage, and then there's a back room where everyone loads their gear in. And the first band is like smoking cigarettes in the back room, but they've left the door open so the smoke goes out while rain is pouring in on our gear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you fucking clowns doing? Like, close the goddamn, like, this is like, I went full, like, I'm 6'5", I'm a giant. I scared the fuck out of them. Like, I was like, what are you doing? So then they played and immediately left. They loaded out. They were like the local support for the tour played. There were like 5 fans who actually made it out there, all fucked off immediately. They packed up, loaded out, did not see any of the other bands. So it was just us in the gorge to the sound guy, basically, and the bartender. Great. Yeah, it was a total disaster. So we're having fun, like fucking with each other. We're like, oh, all right, who's gonna do spin kicks on stage? Right? Right? So it's that mode. I get up to sound check for some reason. I play my guitar. The sound guy's like, can you turn the guitar down? I was like, seriously? And he said, yes. All right. So I turned it down a little bit. Play another chord. It's like, all right, can you turn it down again? I just shouted, for who? Who?
Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's like rock bottom show.
Yeah. I've seen a few of them out here in Arizona where it's like, geez, man, where is everybody? And yeah, that's definitely a moment right there. Oh God. I can't. Whew, got to wipe the sweat off your brow for that one. Jeez. All right. So, lastly, with this music, with everything you're creating, why are you drawn so much to this music? What gets you?
I mean, I think it's a just primal kind of standing in front of a big guitar amp and hitting a big guitar chord. Like, it's just the best.
Yeah. I've done. I played for a long time, and then I tried to do other things. When I moved to Chicago, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends, so I had a really hard time starting a band. And I tried acting and writing and I did comedy school and a bunch of stupid stuff. And all of that's great, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But I never had as much fun or felt more satisfied than when I was playing music. And it always felt like there was a huge hole in my life when I wasn't doing it. And I realized that like the 7 years that I lived in Chicago, that I had recorded a record the week I left Nevada. And then I was in a 7-year drought in Chicago. And I realized I was like more sad, or like there was a bigger hole in me than I had ever realized, because I had been playing since I was 15. And I knew that I needed to start playing again, or otherwise I wouldn't really ever be fully happy. And I think playing in a band with your friends is maybe the most satisfying and enjoyable experience maybe I've ever had. And I can't imagine my life without it.
And you know what? You can take certain things away from it. So were you in UCB?
So UCB is New York and LA. I trained at IO, or formerly Improv Olympic here.
Oh, okay.
I also trained at the Annoyance, because those are those schools that I picked.
And you know what? Here's the thing. It's, like we mentioned earlier with Aseethe, maybe even with Snow Burial. I'll be honest, I haven't seen you guys live, so I don't know what you're doing on stage, but I'm sure there's that whole thing that yes and.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got it. You know the lingo.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Thank you, Pete Holmes and everybody else that was in the all those improv troops, and I just I think it's important, and it's great to have guys like the three of you guys just playing off each other and knowing and projecting like, this is what I'm going to do. What do you think? And blah, blah, blah. And all doing it on stage. And like Aseethe does, without showing us. And it makes it look seamless, like, oh yes, this was absolutely what it was supposed to be, and maybe it wasn't, Yeah,
that's the best trick, right? Is it looks 100% written, even if it's improvised, and if it's written, it feels improvised.
That's the pocket that we're all aiming for, but it's the best, and it's why we come back after outnumbering the audience, like for shows or having a van explode or, if you've played for any amount of time, we could literally do an entire series of podcasts about like wild show failures, but there's something that calls to us, right? It's not.
Or even successes. And there's like some weirdos at the show, and like, that's a fun story too, right? Like,
All right. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, because I feel like I've had a great time interviewing you guys, and over the phone sometimes it's hard, but you guys make it so easy. And maybe I can contact you again, and if you could just give me a story or two, leading up to the release, that would be awesome.
Anytime.
We'd love to.
All right. So
we're gonna
go ahead.
Nope, I got nothing.
Nothing except the love of pinball.
That's true. That's true. That's always in my heart.
It's the one true love.
Yeah,
it's the one true love. How can everybody reach you on social media, and where can they get the latest release?
So you can get, if you go to our Bandcamp, right, that's where you can pre-order our record. We each, because we're a team, we all helm different corners of the social medias. Ben runs the Instagram, and that's at Snowburial. I run Twitter at Snowburial Band, which I'm working very hard to get to be at Snowburial, but it's at Snowburial Band. And then you can also just type Snowburial into Facebook, and I'm sure we'll show up somewhere. Yep. But we're active. We do those things. We make goofs. We make jokes. We tell you about bands that we love. We do our updates from tour. We live blog what records we're listening to in the van. We're around there. So, and then you can also just probably, I assume, soon check Prosthetic Records. I'm sure they have it somewhere. Yep.
And YouTube. Our video for Sever the Bloodlines on there. I've got a YouTube channel that needs to get reinvigorated. But there's a bunch of
buy
gear
more
demos.
guitars. Buy more guitars.
I know it's. I have the tracking number, so I have a new guitar coming. But there's a bunch of demo. I'm a huge gear nerd and film nerd, so I try to run a YouTube channel too. All right, we're all over all of it.
You know what? I know we're getting late. All right, you know what? Fuck it. We'll make it 2 parts. So, okay. Let's talk gear. What do you got?
Okay. All right. This is a long rabbit hole.
I'm sorry. You need to say start new podcast. This is like going to be a Silmarillion level. Like, I'm going to just sit back in my chair. I'll be back in an hour and a half. You just let Ben do his gear rundown for you.
I have a lot of thoughts. So my guitar, and this is what I recorded Victory and Ruin on. This is what this album's recorded on. This is what I've been touring with. It's an electrical guitar company, Baritone. It is based off of the Scott Kelly signature guitar. Right. Scott Kelly of Neurosis. So electrical guitar company's deal is that they make aluminum-based guitars. So they have some guitars that are fully aluminum, some are just aluminum neck. Mine is an aluminum neck with all the pickups and bridges mounted to the aluminum sort of centerpiece, and then it is an acrylic guitar wings going around that. The effect of which is it's a very sort of specific tone. And it is a different sort of, it's a different feel and resonance than a normal wood guitar. It is also, they are master fucking craftsmen. So this is a guitar that is exceptionally well built. it will outlast me. It will outlast my children and their children's children. You bury this for 1,000 years and it'll come back. Like, this is, it's metal and plastic. Like, there's nothing that'll, degrade over time with it, really. So that is, when I got that guitar, it really focused what I had been trying to do. So prior to that, I had gone deep on Meshuggah and Animals as Leaders. I had an 8-string guitar. So that actually our first two EPs actually are recorded with, an Ibanez 8-string. And I love both of those bands. I love what they do, but getting the 6-string baritone just felt right. Like, it's just one of those things you pick up, you play it, and you're just instantly connected to that thing.
Okay.
And that's the basis, right? So no matter what rig I play through, it's like when we tour Europe, I had to borrow amps. I could bring I brought my pedal board, but like that guitar, like, so the first time we toured Europe, I plugged in my pedal board. I had like a whole like power converter because all of Europe's 220. We run 110 volt. Blew up my pedal board immediately because my converter didn't work. So I just had to go guitar into amp, and it was an amp I was borrowing, and it still sounded like us, like that.
Oh, perfect.
That's right. And it talk about sweating and tour horror stories, right? Like your gear exploding on the first show of your overseas tour.
Right.
So then what I found so Nick and I were in this band called Only the Bones together, which was again, sort of Fugazi-ish.
Post-punk, whatever stuff, rock and roll. It's all. I don't think too hard about labels anymore.
Yeah,
you just play your thing. And
it was rock. It was loud.
Yeah,
and we found a sound together where, I had my rig for Snow Burial, and I just basically brought my spare, quote unquote, twin reverb up to play, and it's that's loud enough to compete with fucking anything. And with him and his rig, like, it just sat so well together that when Nick joined Snow Burial, like, I've now switched. I now have 2 twin reverbs and I run a stereo rig, and it's just like that sits perfectly on top of his sound.
Everything complements the other.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's, I think, been a lot of the really crucial sort of steps is finding it. Like, plenty of stuff sounds great by yourself when you're alone in the room, but like how it sits with the drums, how it sits with the guitars, like, we really have put a lot of effort into finding a complementary sound, right? A sound that supports, right? This is the improv training, right? In guitars, right? You want to support the other instruments and then get out of the way when they need to, and then, support them when they need it. And so I run a Fender American Jazz bass through 2 410 Sun cabs, through an Ampeg SVT Classic, one of the last generations they made of those in America. And then it's been like my rig. It has served me for the last 20 years. It's like, it's a tank, and I love how it sounds. A lot of people use like the Ampeg coffin, as we used to call it. That's the 810. Right. But what I love about the Sun 410s is that they have horns, and so they really bring out a lot of high and mid range that I feel like you don't get on the Ampeg cabs. So I also have my 2 410s. We run in essentially a split mono, so our rigs are identical on both sides of the drums, both a 410 bass cab and the twin on top of it. So it ends up just really forming this like wall of sound where it doesn't matter where you stand in the room, it's going to pummel you with both guitar and bass equally, and it's really great for sort of like the stereo spread of our sound.
And that's what I was curious to from hearing the material that you had. How does the bass sound come across live? Because I just hear it, and way back, and even the wall of sound. I just want to go back to the band Helmet. I always thought they had that wall of sound, and your drummer,
Brandon plays drums. He couldn't be here. He's going to Canada tomorrow, but like he's wonderful, and he plays also a dope ass acrylic kit. It's all like they're also shaming me for not having an acrylic instrument because Brandon plays a clear acrylic drum set.
Yeah, total Ludwig,
like
John Bonham Vista-like kit.
Yeah, and then Ben's got his acrylic EGC, and they're like, fuck you with your wood instrument. Get out of here. Like,
but
if you're going to join this band, you got to have an acrylic instrument. So I'm looking. We're working.
I got to say, he has, honestly, one of the closest sounds I've heard to, is it John Stanier, the original Helmet drummer? That I've always looked for that sound of how that snare hits and what it sounds like. And he really...
Elvin Jones snare.
Is that what it is?
It's a specific Elvin Jones signature snare. So that snare sound, the guy Shane Hochstetler from Milwaukee, who we've recorded all of our records with, he had one in his studio, and Brandon's always been very equally gear nerdy about his drum kits. And we went into his studio and we're going to record our first EP. And she's like, hey, just try out this snare. I think you might like it. And Brandon was like, what the fuck? What is this? This is the perfect snare. Like, God damn it. And it was this Elvin Jones signature. And like they only made it for a few years. So there's not a ton of them.
Right.
And we like it just sounds the best. It's just the best fucking snare. And Shane is a monster drummer. He now tours with Child Bite, if you know them.
Yeah, I just saw them, within the past 6 monmonths with Phil Anselmo.
So you probably saw Shane drum for them, yeah.
Shane's also filled in for Aseethe, when Eric couldn't go. And he's a monster. He is a monster drummer. And I turned Aseethe on to Shane when they were looking to record Hopes of Failure, I think is the name of the record before Throws. Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, look, like we've recorded everything with Shane. He's an awesome drummer. Like if you want a great drum sound, like go with him. And he and Eric, the drummer in Aseethe, really bonded. And then they did Throws with him at Studio B at Electrical Audio, which we also did. So like, if you can't tell, we're really close with Aseethe. So
sure. I'm getting that. Well, you did a split with them.
Yes, yep. Totally, right. And we did that at Electrical Audio, also recorded with Shane.
Here's something that's fun that we haven't really gotten to talk about, but the Aseethe split with is a version of Sever the Bloodline that has the original bass player for Snow Barrel, which is Andrew. And so part of what you're talking about with that big sound is like those were a lot of Andrew's bass lines. All of Victory and Ruin is him. I give him all credit for playing that. And actually, when I joined Snow Barrel, a lot of the material that would become Ostrava was sort of based on work that he had done. Right. So I definitely want to give him a shout out for like sort of laying the template. And I was still trying to find my way into this in a way to sort of like find how to honor what he created with Snow Burial and how I could make it my own. So I want to also just make sure that like he gets his props for that, like for really crushing that record. And like, he's an incredible also gear nerd as well. Yeah. Like as I stare at his Varellen Meat Smoke amp and like 2 high stack of pedal boards.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because he also still plays in Sex Laser with Brandon, our drummer. So like everybody is still close, and there's still
it's all amicable and good. Everyone's friendly, which is good.
That's.
I'm not going to forget my Elvin Jones snare story though. Sorry.
Okay,
so so after recording with Eric went to go record with Shane. He also borrowed that snare and was like, "God fucking damn it, that's the best snare ever." He went and bought one. And so after touring with it for a while, he decided that he actually wanted a slightly different snare for their live setup and their live sound, and sold it to Brandon. So we now have Aseethe's old snare, which is the same model as Shane's, because it is the only one in true snare.
Nice.
One snare
It is the one ring.
And the thing is, like, Brandon even went so far as to like study that signature and be like, all right, it's this kind of shell. It uses wood hoops. It uses these lugs, and I like these kinds of head, and it's this number of snares, and like basically built his own. Like finding a shell that was the right ply, the right width, depth, everything,
right.
Getting the right, like going that deep into making his own. Bought the Elvin Jones, and at the next practice was like, yep, that one's better.
Holy shit, really?
It's trash, I'm selling it. Like,
what's the magic, dude? What is it?
I don't fucking know. It's wood hoops. It has wood hoops. It's like the perfect depth. So I love the Deftones, right? But their snare sound is like that marching band kind of
piccolo,
just all crack.
Right.
And this is like this really deep sound, like it's it's like a baritone snare in a way, but it still has the attack to cut through without it being super bright. Like it's just this magic sweet spot for down-tuned, sludgy.
It really is.
Like that. Is. It's not for every band, but for this band, it's perfect.
And I apologize because we were kind of signing off, but
hey, you said we're starting part 2.
I warned you with the gear thing. It was never going to go well.
I haven't even talked about my pedals yet.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the command center.
Well, here's the thing. Believe me, that'll be for another podcast. But the thing is, like, I talk to bands on and off mic. And some of them say, like, some of my favorite parts are when other bands geek out about their gear. Mm-hmm. It means something because, you know what, in all of it, it shows passion and it shows commitment. I don't know if you have you ever heard the term "be the pig"? I don't know if you ever have. There's this idea that the chicken is involved with the breakfast, but the pig is committed to it.
I like that.
So
that's great.
So be the pig, be committed, and it doesn't matter whether it's pinball.
Bleed for your art.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter whether it's pinball, whether it's pizza, whether it's this epic doom that you guys provide, this progressive doom. Just show me your passion. I don't care what it is, and I just love it, and you know what, I so much appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Any final words, or I think we're good.
Yeah.
No, it's been super fun, man. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to care and to create this podcast. Like, share this and let this be a platform for other bands and us. It's awesome, and we very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. Snow Burial, check it out. The material is coming out September 20th, 2019. Items are going to ship out the day before. Check out this purple vinyl. You guys are going to love it. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, man.
See you. Bye.
Thank you so much to the guys in Snow Burial. They were fantastic. Sometimes when you do a phone interview, you just never know. We really connected. It really clicked. And I just had such a fantastic time just shooting the shit with these guys. Let's hear the title track. This is Snow Burial with Ostrava.
Sweating now,
Thanks, everyone, for hanging out towards the end. doomtombpodcast at gmail.com is how to reach us. Don't forget, we have a show, craniumradio.com, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sundays, the Doom Tomb. You will hear all the finest in stoner doom and sludge, and yeah, you'll hear my voice too. Sorry about that, but you're going to hear it. But you will hear some great music. So mute down or turn off the sound on your football game and just crank this up. You won't be disappointed. I promise you. Also, we have Planet Mammoth 2020 coming February 21st through 23rd. Yucca Tap Room, Tempe, Arizona. Do not forget, get your tickets now. This is going to be a banger. It's going to be a blowout. You do not want to miss it. And until that time, next time, meantime, and in between time, enjoy yourselves. Keep going to the shows. Buy that band merch every once in a while. And don't forget to stay heavy.